Hello, fellow mechanics. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One. I gotta change out the front wheel bearings on my 2001 Ford Ranger two-wheel drive. I've already taken the tire off, jacked it up, taken the tire off. It's sitting on jack stands. I think you know how to do that. But one of the things I hate about some of these how-to videos is they kind of fast forward and skip over the thing, so I'm going to have the camera on the whole time. I guess what I'll do is I'll make three parts. Part one's going to be taking it apart. Part two will be putting the wheel bearings, taking the wheel bearings out and putting the new ones in. And then step three, or part three, will be putting the whole thing back together again. So of course, you got to have the proper tools for the job. And the one thing I have is this piece of pipe. We call it the special tool. I put it in the vise and crunched up the end so it fits over the socket wrench. It fits on either side, but you know, on my bigger wrench I needed this, so that's what this is. So the first thing we do is we get out our 14 millimeter socket, and we got to take this off. Okay, so we put the special tool on it. And then we can take it off. Then we loosen up the other one right here. And we take these two bolts off. And you have to have yourself a bolt cut, nut cup, screw cup, otherwise parts can go away, wind up missing. Okay, and I always like to set this up here rather than just let it hang down. I don't like it hanging. Okay, now we take off the brakes, the brake pads. Now, what we need is a 15 millimeter, because that's the other thing. They don't always tell you what size sockets and wrenches you need, but it's nice to know. And then there's the bolts right here. It's kind of hard to see in the back, but when you're under it, you know what. You can see there's only two bolts. Okay. Let's see if I can get better leverage this way. Yes. The only problem is sometimes you can crack these sockets, and I think I just did. Yep. Can you see that crack in the socket? Now, as it gets a little too much, but it's a Craftsman, they'll replace it for free. So I got to get another socket. Okay, so got my impact socket. That should work a little bit better. There we go. And then there's one in here. It's right up here at the top. And the thing about it is, you need an extension or you need a deep dish socket, one of the two. So if you've got air tools, you can use these because they're a little more stout, especially if you have to hit it with a hammer. So you get in here, and you break it loose like so. And that comes off. Now the fun part. If you're doing this, it's best to pull this off while you still have the wheel on the ground. But I already jacked this thing up. So I use this piece of angle iron, stick it in here so it won't turn. And I got these big channel lock pliers. I grab it like so to loosen it up and pull it off. But it really does work better and easier if you do that while it's still on the ground. Okay, now the next thing to do is you got to take the cotter pin out. And I don't know if you can hear that, but that means I got a bad wheel bearing. Now, best thing to do is get a new cotter pin. You really don't want to trust the old one. Even though I recently replaced this one, I'm still going to put a new one in, because I don't want the wheels falling off of me when I'm going down the highway. Sometimes you have to use a hammer. And there you go. That's trash. Not to be used again. Okay. Now that we've got that, we got the little locking ring right there. Just pull that off, put it in the parts. Now you got this nut here, and see that's loose. If I remember correctly, I think it's a 1/16. It'll take it right off. 1 1/16 inch socket. Put that in the nut cup. Okay. You can see the old wheel bearing just came out. And that's it. So that's part one. Part two, we're going to take out the old bearings and put in the new ones.